I'm Joel Hamilton, and we're at Studio G Brooklyn. I'm one of the owners here. There's two partners, me and Tony Mamoni. Opened up Studio G a long time ago. Actually, this coming year, it'll be the 21st year Studio G has existed. And only a couple years in this new location. But I guess... No, that's it. I need a microphone that's going to give me what's important about that performance and leave what's not important in the room. Meaning the way that it fits with the rest of the instruments is important, but also kind of gives me a way to hear exactly what's happening. When you got somebody singing that can fill up the words with actual emotions, something that lets that through is important. It's sort of that tiny little window that we all shoot for, where below it there's a whole bunch of boring, and just above it is overcooked, and right there is where everything sort of needs to be for me. It's like when your heroes sing into a microphone or speak into a microphone, and there's something about their voice that you feel like you know them better. Something reaches down the wires and grabs you. And there's particular pieces of gear that allow that to happen, and then there's pieces of gear that remind you that you're listening to a recording. Pieces of gear that I gravitate towards have a design philosophy that's evident in the way that the thing works, the way that it's executed physically. Like when you get your picture taken by a camera phone versus getting your picture taken with a large format camera, it's like you sort of sit up a little straighter and you feel like, hey, all right, this is an event. This isn't just a snapshot at the birthday party. This is like I'm here to be photographed. And that changes the way that you think about what's coming out of your mouth. It changes the way you think about your own art or your own opinion or your own, whatever it is that is being recorded in that moment. The design, the physical form factor of what's being put up in front of somebody affecting the outcome of a vocal take. I've seen it again and again with a classic thing being put up, a classic microphone being put up right next to something that looks like a pipe bomb, right next to something that they don't even know is a microphone, and you wind up seeing how people respond to that. And it changes the outcome, it changes the vocal performance. For me, the artistic fulfillment comes from feeling that I've gotten the right capture of the right sentiment, of the right performance, to the point where I forget that I'm using all that gear. I forget that I'm using devices at all, and it kind of just washes over you. Like when it stops engaging the academic brain and starts hitting the lizard brain. You can be blindsided by a song in the positive sense, where you're like, I know I'm mixing it, and even being the one driving, you can be surprised, or you can be pleasantly surprised by this, there's that certain something, man, that's hard to put into words, where you wind up with a particular set of timbres that equals more than what you felt like your basic tracks were. It can happen in the mix, it can happen during tracking with the right timbres. Something can just hit you right in the heart, whereas you were listening with your ears when you started that day, and by the end of the day it's making your heart beat differently. That's fulfilling. There'll be like a beautiful voice on a great track, and you wind up just sort of getting the chills, and right in that moment you realize that you've made something that matters, because it just doesn't matter to me until that feeling happens. It just doesn't matter. I think it's important in music and in art in general to find the edges of what any given age group is willing to go for. It's weird that popular opinion becomes these sort of lines on the tennis court, that surround a particular genre or surround a particular design philosophy. So you start just accepting, oh, that's what a microphone looks like, or that's what a mic pre looks like. So popular opinion puts these lines down, and then everybody kind of runs around inside of it and thinks that they're playing the game. And all of a sudden you see somebody run past the lines, and all the people who have run inside of the lines for a million years go, hey, that's outside the lines. And you realize that a whole new genre is born of that, stylistically, design-wise. You know, in all ways, there's sort of a mutation at some point where somebody's willing to go outside the lines a little bit. In the design sense, it's a willfully going outside the lines and seeing what you get out of it. And I think that what we need more of is people willing to go outside the lines. We don't need yet another pair of beige cargo pants. So I'd like to see people pushing the limits stylistically more in an era that seems to rely more heavily on historical precedent than ever in history, ironically. You know, where did we turn around and start looking backwards? You know what I mean? Like I'm nostalgic for a time without nostalgia, even if it's recycling old ideas and coming up with something new by discarding them. Like having an understanding of the past clearly is important, but it's knowing which things we can get rid of and which things we go, oh, that was kind of a cool idea, let's take that and push it in this new direction. You know what I mean? I don't need to see a 5-wheeled station wagon. You know what I mean? Like, but what I would like to see is more development in important ways that don't rely on the current paradigm. There's things that are based on like advertising that we wind up with solutions to problems that don't actually exist in the studio, but they're being sold to 20-year-old engineers, you know, they're like trying to make it, and they're wasting money on like a phantom-powered pop screen, you know, that you can like project waveforms onto or something, you know, like just these dumb ideas that are like, you know, when you can't see the screen because the pop screen's in the way and you're trying to sync up to your whatever, you know, like dumb ideas. I just watch things like that bleed young engineers dry of what limited budget there already is, and out of compassion I'll make a judgment and say, you know what, you really don't need that. There really is something to it as far as how infectious enthusiasm, when it's genuine, can be for a particular microphone, for a particular song, or for a particular way of doing things. That's where movements are born.